Welcome to long-form content of Tech Bytes and News. This is a compilation on latest news and articles featured on Hacker News. You can find the original links of articles in the description. Please like and subscribe to support future content. Hope you enjoy.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating project, pylane spotting. It's a really cool visualization of flight data, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's like a real-time air traffic control dashboard, but way more visually appealing. So what's the core concept behind pylane spotting?
Essentially, it's a website that displays a series of images, each showing a different flight arriving at Delhi Airport, DEL, on January 25, 2025. Each image shows the aircraft, its flight number, airline, aircraft type, origin airport, and arrival time. It's a very detailed record, remarkably so.
Right, and the images themselves, are they screenshots from Flight Radar 24?
That's what the creator, at Obvious, says. They're using data from Flight Radar 24, but they've created custom images, not just simple screenshots. It's a nice touch, adding a visual flair to what could otherwise be a pretty dry dataset.
I see. It's interesting that they chose to present the data this way. Why not just a table or a map?
That's a great question. I think the visual approach makes the data much more accessible and engaging. A table would be overwhelming with so many flights, and a map might not show the detail of each individual flight. The images provide a nice balance between information density and visual appeal. It's very clever.
Yeah. It's certainly unique. The sheer volume of flights displayed is impressive. It really highlights the busy nature of Delhi Airport.
Exactly. And the variety of airlines and aircraft types is also striking. You've got Indigo, IGO, with their Airbus A320 and A321neos, Air Asia India, AXB, with their Boeing 737 MAX 8s, SpiceJet, SEJ, with their Boeing 737-800S, and even some other international carriers. It's a diverse mix.
It is! And the timestamps are precise, down to the minute. That level of detail is really impressive.
It is. And it speaks to the accuracy of the underlying Flight Radar 24 data. The creator clearly put a lot of effort into curating and presenting this information in such a visually compelling way. It's a testament to their dedication.
Totally. I wonder what the future holds for this project. Maybe more airports? Different time periods? Perhaps interactive elements?
Those are all excellent possibilities. I could definitely see this expanding to include other major airports around the world. Adding interactive features would also enhance the user experience significantly. The potential is huge. Overall, pylane spotting is a fantastic example of data visualization done right. It's informative, engaging, and visually stunning.
Agreed. A truly impressive project. Thanks for highlighting it.
My pleasure. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to Tech Bytes and News. Have a great day, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into FediDB, a fascinating resource providing statistics on the Fediverse. Specifically, we'll be looking at PixelFed, the decentralized photo-sharing platform. Ready to explore the numbers? It's going to be exciting.
Absolutely. I'm buzzing with anticipation. So, FediDB itself. What's the core function? Is it just a directory?
Essentially, yes. It's a database aggregating statistics from various instances across the Fediverse. Think of it as a central hub, providing insights into the health and growth of these decentralized networks. It's not just a directory. It's a powerful analytical tool. It gives us a real-time snapshot of the Fediverse's activity.
Right. And PixelFed, as we're focusing on today, is a photo-sharing platform within this Fediverse. So what kind of data does FediDB provide on PixelFed instances?
Loads. We're looking at server-specific data like version numbers. It seems most are running 0.12.4, which is interesting, maybe indicating a stable release. We also see new signups, total accounts, total posts, location, and the dates the instances first appeared and were last seen by FediDB. It's a goldmine of information.
Wow, that's comprehensive. So, looking at the table, it seems PixelFed. Social is the largest instance by a significant margin. Is that typical for Fediverse platforms? To have one dominant instance?
That's a great question. It's certainly a common pattern, but not always the case. It often reflects network effects. Larger instances attract more users, creating a positive feedback loop. But the decentralized nature of the Fediverse means that this dominance isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's a complex issue. Many smaller instances cater to niche communities, offering a more intimate experience.
I see. So the data shows a wide geographical distribution of pixel-fed servers, right? Germany seems particularly popular. Is there any explanation for that?
That's a good point. It's hard to say definitively without further research, but it could be due to several factors. Perhaps stronger privacy regulations in Germany attract users seeking more control over their data. Or maybe there's a more active community of developers or users in Germany. It's definitely an area worth exploring further.
Absolutely. And the last seen date is interesting. They all seem to have been last seen in January 2025. Does that mean FediDB hasn't updated its data recently? Or is there another explanation?
That's a very astute observation. It's likely a data collection issue on FediDB's end. It could be a temporary glitch, or perhaps there's a delay in updating the information for all instances. It's something to keep an eye on.
Definitely. Overall, though, FediDB provides a really valuable service, doesn't it? Giving us this granular view into the Fediverse is incredibly useful for understanding its growth and dynamics.
Completely agree. It's a fantastic resource for researchers, developers, and anyone interested in the decentralized web. It's a powerful tool for understanding the evolving landscape of online communities. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the Fediverse. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating experiment, pitting OpenAI's On1 model against itself in a game of codenames. It's a surprisingly insightful look at AI's reasoning capabilities.
Right. I've been following this project, and the results are, mind-blowing. The author pitted two teams of On1 models against each other in over 20 games of codenames. The most striking thing, the AI's performance was consistently impressive.
Exactly. And it wasn't just winning, it was how it won. The author highlights several key observations. First, O1's general knowledge far surpasses the average human's. Remember those times when a clue falls flat because someone doesn't get the reference? Well, O1 consistently demonstrated a broad understanding, connecting seemingly disparate concepts.
Yeah, I saw those examples. One instance involved the clue Sputnik, which for many might not be immediately obvious, but O1 flawlessly linked it to Russia and satellite. That's incredible. It shows a level of contextual understanding that's truly remarkable.
Absolutely. And then there's the 007 clue. Initially, the author thought it was a rule violation, but it turns out, according to the official rules, and even a Reddit discussion, it's perfectly valid. It highlights the AI's ability to not only understand the game, but also to interpret and apply nuanced rules.
That's a great point. It shows that O1 isn't just following a rigid set of instructions, it's actually understanding the underlying logic and context. It's not just playing the game, it's mastering it. Another fascinating example was the clue paper, which linked mail, lawyer, line, and log. That's a level of creative thinking I wouldn't expect from an AI.
I see what you mean. It's not just about brute force knowledge. It's about insightful connections. Even experienced codenames players might struggle to make that connection. It really underscores the potential of AI in complex reasoning tasks. It's almost unnerving, in a good way.
Unnerving is a good word for it. It makes you wonder what other complex tasks AI could master. This experiment isn't just about codenames. It's about understanding the potential of AI to reason, strategize, and even exhibit a form of creativity. It's truly groundbreaking.
Precisely. And the best part? You can even try it yourself. The author has created a website where you can play against the AI. It's a fantastic opportunity to witness this firsthand. So, go check it out, and let us know your thoughts. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into a fascinating project, building your own Sinclair ZX80. This isn't just some nostalgic hobby. It's a journey into the heart of early computing. Get ready.
A DIYZX80? Wow, that sounds incredibly ambitious. What makes this project so unique, and why is it still relevant today?
Well, it's unique because it's a verified working design. Online since 1996, the author, Grant Searle, painstakingly recreated the ZX80 schematics and PCB layouts, correcting errors in the original documentation. It's a testament to the power of open source and community collaboration. And relevant? It's a fantastic way to learn about the fundamentals of computer architecture. No black boxes here, just pure logic gates and clever design. It's hands-on history.
I see. So it's not just about building a retro computer, it's a learning experience. What are some of the key technical challenges involved? I mean, it's not like building a modern PC, right?
Right. It's a far cry from modern PCs. You're working with discrete components, not integrated circuits. Individual chips for memory, logic, and the Z80 processor itself. You'll need to understand how these interact, how the memory is addressed, and how the display is generated. The author even provides details on using alternative components, like replacing the ceramic resonator with a crystal. It's a real deep dive.
And the PCB design? That sounds intense. I'm assuming it's not just a matter of ordering a pre-made board.
Exactly. Searle provides high-resolution PDF files for the PCB layouts, top and bottom layers, silkscreen, the whole shebang. You'll need to print these onto acetate, expose them to UV light, etch the copper, and drill the holes. It's a proper old-school PCB fabrication process. He even includes precise hole coordinates to ensure accuracy. It's amazing the level of detail.
So it's not for the faint of heart. What about the software? Is it all readily available?
The ROM images are available for download, but you'll need to burn them onto an EEPROM. The author also discusses using a larger EEPROM to hold both ZX80 and ZX81 ROMs, with a switch to select between them. And there's even a section on converting the ZX80 into a ZX81, which involves building a separate NMI generator. It's a rabbit hole of possibilities.
A rabbit hole indeed. It seems like a significant undertaking, but the level of detail and the historical significance make it incredibly appealing. I'm curious, what are some of the potential pitfalls someone might encounter?
Well, aside from the PCB fabrication, soldering skills are crucial. You're working with very fine tracks and components, so precision is key. Debugging a faulty circuit can be challenging, especially without an oscilloscope. The author mentions this explicitly. And, of course, there's the time commitment. This isn't a weekend project. It's a labor of love. But the reward is immense.
Absolutely. It's a journey into the past, a hands-on lesson in electronics and computer architecture, and a chance to build something truly unique. Thanks for shedding light on this incredible project. It's inspiring.
My pleasure. And to our listeners, if you're looking for a challenging yet rewarding project that blends history, technology, and a healthy dose of nostalgia, look no further than Grant Searle's ZX80 Build Guide. Happy building, and we'll see you next time on Tech Bytes and News. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating job posting. Research engineer at Arsenal Football Club. It's not your average data science role, folks. This is cutting-edge stuff.
Oh, I'm already hooked. What makes it so special? Is it the chance to work for Arsenal? Because, let's be honest, that's a pretty big draw in itself.
Absolutely. But it's way more than just the Arsenal name. They're looking for someone to spearhead their AI and deep learning initiatives, directly impacting on-field performance. We're talking about using cutting-edge techniques like transformers, diffusion models, reinforcement learning, and even geometric deep learning, all to gain a competitive edge. This isn't just about crunching numbers. It's about shaping the future of football.
Wow, that's intense. So what kind of data are we talking about here? Just player stats or something more holistic?
Oh, it's far more holistic than just stats. They mention spatiotemporal data, image/video analysis, text data, you name it. It's a massive, multimodal dataset, presenting some serious engineering challenges in terms of scalability and performance. Think about the sheer volume of data generated during a single match.
Right, the sheer volume. And the complexity of integrating all those different data types, that's a huge undertaking. What are some of the day-to-day tasks mentioned?
Well, they want someone who can design, develop, and deploy bespoke AI models. They need someone who can conduct applied AI research, tackling complex, unsolved problems. Collaboration is key. They'll be working with coaches, analysts, scouts, and other engineers. And, they'll need to communicate insights to both technical and non-technical audiences. It's a full-stack role, really. They even mention hacking together interactive tactics boards in React.js.
Hacking together a tactics board in React.js? That's unexpected, but cool. What about the qualifications? I'm guessing it's not just any old data scientist they're after.
You're right. They're looking for someone with a strong quantitative background, an advanced degree in computer science, AI, math, stats, or a related field. They need deep learning experience, fluency in the PyData stack, Python, NumPy, Pandas/Polars, and experience with frameworks like PyTorch, JAX, Keras, and TensorFlow. Oh, and excellent communication skills are a must. It's a pretty demanding job description.
It certainly sounds like it. But the perks seem pretty amazing too. They mention a flexible hybrid working model, priority access to match tickets. I'm suddenly very tempted to apply.
I know, right? And don't forget the generous holiday allowance, internal learning and development programs, and a competitive health and well-being benefits package. It's a pretty comprehensive package. They also emphasize their commitment to diversity and inclusion, which is great to see. The application deadline is Wednesday, February 5th, 2025, so don't delay.
Definitely something to consider for anyone with the right skills and passion for football analytics. This isn't just a job, it's a chance to make a real impact on a world-class football club. A dream job for many, I'd say.
Exactly. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you found this discussion insightful. Until next time, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating article challenging the common assumption that Rails apps are inherently iodine monoxide bound. It's a really insightful piece.
I'm eager to hear this. The idea that database performance overshadows Ruby's role in Rails applications is something I've always questioned. Let's unpack this myth.
Absolutely. The article starts by highlighting the common belief that database bottlenecks define Rails app performance, making Ruby's speed less critical. But it argues that this conflates scale with performance. Scaling is about handling more users linearly, while performance is about speed and efficiency. They're distinct concepts.
So while scaling a Rails app often hits database limits first, that doesn't mean the app spends most of its time waiting for database I/O, right?
Exactly. The article emphasizes that typical Rails performance issues, like missing indexes or N+1 queries, are bugs, not inherent properties. Fixing these improves performance dramatically. Once you address these, the time spent waiting on I/O might be surprisingly small.
That's a crucial point. It's not about inherent limitations, but about good coding practices. The article mentions YJIT improvements as evidence, doesn't it?
Yes, the significant latency reductions reported by Discourse, Lobsters, Basecamp, Hey, and Shopify's storefront renderer using YJIT strongly suggest that these apps aren't primarily I/O bound. If they were, YJIT's impact would be far less pronounced.
Interesting. So the author argues that many perceive CPU starvation as I/O wait. How does that work?
The way I/O durations are typically measured, simply timing the database query, conflates query time with scheduling delays. A 20 milliseconds query time might include milliseconds spent waiting for the global VM lock, GVL, in Ruby, garbage collection, or OS scheduling. This misleads developers into thinking their app is more I/O bound than it actually is.
That's a really insightful point. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Assuming I/O-bound behavior leads to using more concurrency, which then confirms the assumption through logs. This is especially true on shared hosting, where CPU resources are shared.
Precisely. The article stresses that CPU-bound and I/O-bound workloads don't mix well. Microservices help by creating more homogeneous workloads, making it easier to optimize. But the GVL in Ruby exacerbates the problem in monoliths.
So, what's the practical takeaway for Rails developers? How does this impact deployment choices?
The article suggests choosing the right execution model based on the I/O/CPU ratio. Truly I/O-bound apps benefit from asynchronous models. I/O-heavy apps might use threaded servers, while apps with a balanced ratio might prefer process-based solutions. Rails' recent Puma configuration change reflects this understanding.
I see. And the broader implication for the Ruby community is to not dismiss Ruby's performance potential. There's room for improvement in both Rails and its gems, right?
Absolutely. The author emphasizes that developer happiness shouldn't come at the cost of performance. Well-designed APIs can be both user-friendly and performant, but this requires careful consideration from the outset. It's a great call to action for the community.
This was a really enlightening discussion. Thanks for breaking down this complex topic so clearly.
My pleasure. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in to Tech Bytes and News. We hope you found this discussion as insightful as we did. Have a great day, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating world of gradient descent optimization algorithms, a topic that's crucial for anyone working with neural networks. Let's get started.
Absolutely. I'm eager to hear this. So many different algorithms exist, it's easy to get lost. What's the core idea behind this whole gradient descent optimization thing?
At its heart, gradient descent is about finding the minimum of a function, our loss function, by iteratively stepping in the direction of the steepest descent. Think of it like rolling a ball down a hill. The ball naturally seeks the lowest point. The learning rate determines the size of each step.
So we're not just talking about one algorithm, but a family of them?
Exactly. There are three main variants. Batch gradient descent, which uses the entire dataset for each update. Stochastic gradient descent, SGD, which uses only one data point at a time. And mini-batch gradient descent, a happy medium using small batches. Each has its trade-offs between accuracy and speed.
So batch is slow but accurate, SGD is fast but noisy, and mini-batch is a compromise? That makes intuitive sense.
Precisely. And that noise in SGD, that's where things get interesting. While it can lead to fluctuations, it also helps escape those pesky local minima that can trap other methods.
Right, but what about the challenges? I mean, just picking a learning rate seems like a huge headache.
It is. Choosing the right learning rate is a major challenge. Too small, and convergence is painfully slow. Too large, and you risk divergence. Learning rate schedules try to address this, but they're often predefined and don't adapt to the data.
So that's where all these other algorithms come in, right? Momentum, Nesterov accelerated gradient, Adagrad, Adelta, RMS prop, Atom, Atomax, Natom, AMS grad. It's a whole alphabet soup.
It is. Each of these algorithms tries to improve upon the basic gradient descent methods by addressing those challenges. Momentum, for example, adds a memory of past updates, smoothing out oscillations and speeding up convergence. Nesterov accelerated gradient takes this a step further by looking ahead.
Interesting. And what about the adaptive learning rate methods like Adagrad, Adelta, RMS prop, and Atom? They seem to be the popular kids on the block.
They are. These methods adapt the learning rate for each parameter individually, which is particularly useful for sparse data. Adagrad, however, suffers from diminishing learning rates over time. Adadelta and RMS prop address this by using a decaying average of past gradients. Atom builds on this by incorporating momentum and bias correction.
So Atom is like the ultimate upgrade? It combines the best of both worlds?
Well, almost. Atom has its own issues. AMS grad was proposed to address some of Atom's shortcomings, particularly its tendency to converge to suboptimal solutions in certain cases. But even AMS grad isn't a perfect solution. The field is constantly evolving.
Wow. It sounds like there's no single best algorithm, and the choice depends heavily on the specific problem and dataset.
Exactly. And we haven't even touched on parallelization and distribution techniques like hog-wild, downpour SGD, and elastic averaging SGD, which are crucial for handling massive datasets, or other strategies like batch normalization and early stopping.
This is amazing. It's clear that there's a lot of depth and complexity here. It's not just about choosing an algorithm, but understanding its strengths and weaknesses and how they interact with the data and the problem you're trying to solve.
Precisely. And that's why this is such a rich and active area of research. We've only scratched the surface today, but hopefully this gives you a solid foundation to explore further. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of gradient descent optimization algorithms. Until next time, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving into some fascinating life lessons from a half-century career in computing, as shared by David A. Patterson in Communications of the ACM. Get ready for some wisdom.
Wow, a half-century. That's incredible. What kind of lessons are we talking about here?
He's broken them down into people-focused and career-focused categories. The people-focused ones are really insightful, starting with the crucial family first. He emphasizes the importance of prioritizing family happiness above career success, sharing a heartwarming anecdote about his own family's close-knit community. It's a powerful reminder, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's easy to get caught up in work. And then there's the choose happiness point. He challenges the traditional American idea that happiness equals wealth, highlighting that true happiness comes from strong relationships, helping others, and finding joy in your work and leisure. Very thought-provoking.
I see. Interesting. He also stresses the importance of honest feedback, saying it's crucial for growth and that criticism of your work shouldn't be taken personally. He even talks about how benchmarks, whether in computing or life, can shape a field, for better or worse. A really interesting point about the impact of metrics.
Yeah, that's a great point. And the career-focused lessons, what stood out there?
Well, he emphasizes the importance of focusing on what's important, not just what's urgent. He uses Covey's time management matrix as an example. It's all about prioritizing those crucial, long-term tasks. He also talks about the power of passion, the importance of teamwork, and leading by example. He even mentions the phrase, "Fortune favors the bold," encouraging risk-taking and aiming for big goals.
Right. I really liked his point about finishing projects rather than just starting them. It's so easy to get distracted by shiny new ideas. But actually completing things is key to long-term success. And the importance of culture in an organization, avoiding jerks, as he puts it, is also a key takeaway.
Got it. Exactly. And he ends with a beautiful message about looking for positive opportunities and the importance of a strong, loving relationship. He even shares his 9 magic words for resolving disagreements. I was wrong. You were right. I love you. Simple, yet incredibly powerful.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's a really comprehensive set of lessons, covering both personal and professional life. A truly inspiring read, and a great reminder to prioritize what truly matters.
Absolutely. A fantastic blend of practical advice and heartfelt wisdom. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this insightful discussion. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving into a fascinating account of tackling the Advent of Code 2024 challenge using the BQN programming language. It's a wild ride.
I'm really keen to hear this. Array languages are a bit of a mystery to me. What's the core takeaway from this article?
The author used Advent of Code as a learning vehicle for BQN, an Iversonian array language. The article details their experience, highlighting both the challenges and the rewards of this approach. It's not just a language tutorial, it's a personal journey.
So what were some of the initial hurdles? I'm guessing setting up the environment wasn't a walk in the park?
You're right. Setting up CBQN, the open source implementation, involved some frustration. The build script automatically cloned submodules without prompting, which the author considered a major design flaw. Then there was the glyph-heavy syntax, requiring a specialized editor plugin. Another minor obstacle.
Interesting. And the language itself, how did it compare to more traditional languages?
BQN is radically different. It's all about array operations. Simple tasks like string splitting, which are trivial in many languages, became surprisingly complex. The author emphasizes that you have to rethink problem solving to fit the array paradigm. It's a shift in mindset.
Right, so it's not just about syntax, it's a different way of thinking about data and algorithms?
Exactly. The article showcases this beautifully with examples. Instead of loops, BQN uses array operations and clever techniques like masks to achieve the same results. It's incredibly elegant once you grasp it, but the learning curve is steep.
The article mentions tacit programming. Is that a key feature of BQN?
Yes, BQN supports tacit programming, which allows for very concise code. The author provides examples of both explicit and tacit solutions to the same problems, highlighting the trade-offs between readability and brevity. It's a powerful tool, but it takes time to master.
Did the author mention any specific advent of code problems that were particularly well suited to BQN's array-oriented approach?
Absolutely. The article details solutions for day 2, checking for decreasing sequences, and day 25, grid-based lock/key problem. These examples demonstrate how BQN's array operations can simplify complex tasks. The author also discusses a geometric flood-fill algorithm, which is particularly impressive in its elegance and efficiency.
Wow, that sounds incredibly powerful. Were there any downsides mentioned besides the initial learning curve?
Yes. The lack of a debugger was a minor annoyance. Also, the author encountered Stack Overflow issues with recursive solutions due to CBQN's limited default stack size. This highlights a potential limitation of the current implementation.
So overall, what was the author's final verdict on BQN?
Despite the initial difficulties, the author ultimately found BQN to be a rewarding and enjoyable language, especially for solving puzzles like those in Advent of Code. They emphasize the importance of shifting to an array-oriented mindset and highlight the elegance and efficiency of BQN's approach to certain types of problems. It's not a language for every task, but it's definitely a fun one to explore.
That's a great summary. Thanks for sharing this insightful article with us. It sounds like a language worth investigating for those interested in array programming and puzzle solving.
You're welcome. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving into a fascinating case of meta-hacking. A hacker targeting other, less skilled hackers. It's a real-life hackers hacking hackers scenario, and the numbers are staggering.
18,000 victims? That's wild. What kind of malware are we talking about here?
Exactly. It involves a Trojanized version of the X-Worm rat builder. Think of it as a poisoned gift. Instead of building malware, it installs malware on the script kiddie's machine.
So these script kiddies, they're essentially downloading what they think is a legitimate tool to create their own malware, right? A bit ironic, isn't it?
Incredibly ironic. They're essentially downloading their own demise. The malware itself is pretty nasty. It's got a kill switch, thankfully. But it also steals passwords, cookies, autofill data, the whole shebang. It even has keylogging capabilities and can encrypt files.
Wow, a full-fledged rat. Remote access Trojan. And the distribution methods? How did this thing spread so widely?
Oh, it was everywhere. GitHub, file hosting sites, Telegram channels, even YouTube. The attacker cleverly disguised it as a free and easy-to-use malware builder, targeting those seeking shortcuts in their malicious activities. A classic case of exploiting the very tools and resources these script kiddies are using.
So the researchers at CloudSEK, they managed to neutralize this threat, right? How did they do it?
They used the malware's own kill switch. They identified the Telegram bot ID and token, and then sent a mass uninstall command. Clever, but not foolproof. Some machines were offline when the command was sent, so they remain compromised. Plus, Telegram's rate limits presented a challenge.
That's a pretty ingenious solution, though. It highlights the importance of understanding how these botnets operate. But what's the bigger takeaway here?
The biggest lesson is, never trust unsigned software, especially from other cybercriminals. Always verify the source and legitimacy of any tool, especially if it promises easy access to powerful, potentially dangerous capabilities. This whole incident underscores the risks involved in the dark corners of the internet.
Absolutely. It's a cautionary tale for aspiring hackers and a reminder of the constant cat-and-mouse game in cybersecurity. Thanks for breaking down this fascinating story for us.
My pleasure. And to our listeners, remember to stay safe online, always verify your software sources, and keep your systems updated. Thanks for tuning in to Tech Bytes and News. Have a great day, and stay safe.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a really cool CSS library, CS16.css. It's a CSS framework inspired by the classic Counter-Strike 1.6 UI. and it's surprisingly versatile. Think retro gaming meets modern web design.
Wow, that sounds interesting. So it's basically a pre-built set of CSS styles that mimic the look and feel of the old Counter-Strike interface? How easy is it to implement?
Super easy. You just paste a single line of code into your HTML's head tag to include the style sheet. It uses a CDN, so no downloading or local file management is needed. It's plug and play.
That's incredibly convenient. What kind of UI elements does it cover? Does it just do buttons, or is it more comprehensive?
Oh, it's much more comprehensive than just buttons. It's got buttons, of course, both enabled and disabled states. It also includes horizontal rules, checkboxes, input fields, select dropdowns, radio groups, sliders, dialog boxes, tooltips, progress bars, and even tabs. Pretty much everything you need for a basic UI.
That's a pretty extensive list. And the styling, does it accurately reflect the Counter-Strike 1.6 aesthetic? I'm curious about the level of detail.
Yeah, it captures the essence quite well. The buttons have that distinct, slightly pixelated look, and the overall color scheme and font choices are reminiscent of the game. It's not a perfect pixel-for-pixel recreation, but it's definitely recognizable. It's a tasteful homage, not a slavish copy.
I see. So it's not just a visual skin, it provides functional elements as well? How robust is it in terms of responsiveness and cross-browser compatibility?
That's a great question. The documentation doesn't explicitly detail cross-browser compatibility, but given its simplicity and the use of standard CSS, I'd expect it to be fairly robust. Responsiveness would depend on how you integrate it into your overall design, of course. You'd need to style it further to make it fully responsive. It's a starting point, not a complete solution.
Right, that makes sense. So it's more of a foundation to build upon rather than a fully fledged, out-of-the-box responsive UI kit. What about licensing? Is it open source?
Absolutely. It's released under the MIT license, so it's completely free to use in both personal and commercial projects. Big plus there. It's created by Samuel Bresenjak, whose work is always worth checking out.
Excellent. This sounds like a fantastic resource for anyone looking for a unique and easily implemented UI style. The Counter-Strike 1.6 aesthetic has a certain nostalgic appeal, and this library makes it readily accessible to web developers. I'm definitely going to try it out.
I think you'll find it very useful. The code examples provided are clear and concise, making it easy to get started. Plus, the project is hosted on GitHub, so you can easily contribute or report any issues. It's a well-maintained and well-documented project. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into CS16.css. Until next time, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating job posting. A JVM bytecode engineer role at Inbox Booster, a Y Combinator company. It's a fully remote position, offering a salary range of $50,000 to $150,000, plus equity. Exciting, right?
Absolutely. A fully remote position with equity at a YC company? That's a fantastic opportunity. What specifically are they looking for in a candidate?
Well, they're looking for someone with serious JVM chops. We're talking deep understanding of JVM internals, bytecode manipulation, Java concurrency, and control flow analysis. It's not a junior role, that's for sure.
I see. So not just Java experience, but a real mastery of the underlying mechanics. What's the project itself about?
They're working on automatic parallelization of Java applications, transforming bytecode post-compilation. Their proof of concept already boasts a 2.8x speedup. That's a huge performance gain.
Wow, 2.8x. That's incredible. So they're essentially building a tool that automatically optimizes Java code for parallel processing without needing to change the source code? That's a game changer.
Exactly. The challenge is to take this proof of concept and turn it into a production-ready system. They need someone to handle complex scenarios like branching, object references, and exceptions. It's a tough but rewarding challenge.
It sounds incredibly complex. What kind of experience do they specifically require beyond the core JVM knowledge?
They mention experience with bytecode manipulation libraries like BCEL is a plus. Also, a background in developer tools or performance optimization is highly valued. And of course, the usual startup stuff. Comfort with ambiguity, rapid iteration, and a high-pressure environment.
The startup lifestyle bit is interesting. They're upfront about the high expectations and potential instability. That's honest, at least. But the potential equity upside is a significant draw.
Absolutely. It's a high-risk, high-reward situation. If this takes off, it could be a career-defining opportunity. They also mention a straightforward interview process. Initial interview, technical assessment, technical discussion, and a closing interview. Pretty standard. But the technical assessment sounds intense.
2 hours for a take-home exercise? That's substantial. But it makes sense given the complexity of the project. What about the company itself?
Inbox Booster started by focusing on email deliverability, helping companies avoid spam folders. They've recently secured $2 million in funding and achieved product-market fit. This parallelization project is a new direction for them, a significant pivot.
A pivot from email deliverability to JVM bytecode optimization? That's a bold move. But it sounds like they have a strong team and a compelling vision. It's definitely a job posting worth considering for the right candidate.
Precisely. For someone with the right skills and the appetite for a challenging startup environment, this is a fantastic opportunity to work on cutting-edge technology with significant potential impact. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you found this discussion insightful. Goodbye, and happy listening.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating project, an SMS-powered large language model, LLM, system. It's all about automating responses to spam texts, but with a fun twist. Imagine a system that uses AI to generate witty, personalized replies to real estate spammers.
That sounds amazingly creative. So, how does this whole setup work? I'm particularly curious about the architecture.
Absolutely. The core is a clever combination of Android, MQTT, and an LLM server. Think of it like this. Unsolicited texts arrive on an Android phone. A gateway app forwards them via MQTT to an LLM server. The LLM generates a response based on a chosen persona, and that response is sent back to the phone via MQTT. It's a fully automated, two-way communication system.
Wow, that's elegant. The author used an existing Android app, Android SMS Gateway-MQTT, but modified it, right? What was the key modification?
Exactly. The original app only used MQTT for sending messages. Receiving was done via HTTP post. The author cleverly used Cursor.ai, an AI coding assistant, to modify the app to use MQTT for both sending and receiving, making the whole system much more efficient and streamlined. Pretty neat, huh?
Incredibly so. And the LLM server itself? How does it handle the conversation context?
The Python script on the LLM server is the brains of the operation. It listens for incoming messages, stores each conversation in a separate JSON file, and feeds the last N messages to the LLM for context-aware responses. This ensures that the AI's replies are relevant and coherent. It's all about maintaining conversational flow.
Brilliant. And the personalities, how does the author manage those?
That's where the fun really begins. The author uses Ollama, a LLM interface, to define different personas for the AI. They can easily switch between a college bro, a British gentleman, or any other persona they dream up. The flexibility is amazing. It's like having a whole cast of characters ready to respond to spammers.
I see. So it's not just about blocking spam. It's about engaging with it in a creative and humorous way. But there are legal implications, right?
You're right. The author acknowledges the legal gray area of agreeing to sell land they don't own. To mitigate this, they've instructed the models to never actually close on any deals. It's all about the entertainment value, not actual transactions. A responsible approach, I'd say.
Absolutely. And what about the potential for increasing spam? Doesn't responding to spam encourage more of it?
That's a valid concern. The author mentions that responding can warm up a number, making it more attractive to spammers. However, they counter this by reporting and blocking the numbers after they've had their fun. It's a calculated risk, a compromise between entertainment and responsible behavior, a very interesting ethical dilemma.
Fascinating. This whole project is a testament to the creative applications of LLMs. It's not just about productivity. It's about finding innovative ways to interact with the world around us.
Precisely. It shows how we can use technology not just for mundane tasks, but for playful, creative, and even slightly mischievous purposes. And that, my friends, is what makes this project so incredibly cool. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a truly amazing story from CNN. A doorbell camera captured a meteorite striking a home. Incredible, right?
Absolutely incredible. I saw the headline, but I'm eager to hear the details. Was it a big meteorite? Did it cause any damage?
Well, it wasn't a gigantic one, but it certainly made its presence known. It struck the walkway of a Canadian professor's home on Prince Edward Island. The amazing thing is, the whole thing was caught on his Ring doorbell camera. Video and audio!
Wow. Video and audio? That's unheard of. Most meteorite impacts are just found later.
Exactly. And that's what makes this so significant. The professor, Joe Valaydham, had actually just stepped away from the exact spot the meteorite hit. He said if he'd stayed there just 2 minutes longer, he would have been killed.
Oh my goodness. That's terrifying, but also unbelievably lucky. So what kind of meteorite was it?
It's classified as an ordinary chondrite, which sounds a bit underwhelming, but they're actually quite common among meteorites. It's believed to be a piece of an asteroid from the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. It's been named the Charlottetown meteorite.
Millions of years in space, traveling at incredible speed, and it ends up on someone's doorstep. It's like something out of a movie. I see. Interesting.
It really is. And the story gets even more bizarre. Dr. Chris Hurd, a professor who collected the meteorite, happened to be planning a family vacation on Prince Edward Island just days after the impact. Pure coincidence.
Unbelievable. So what's the scientific significance of all this? Besides the amazing video, of course.
Right, the video is amazing, but the scientific community is excited because they can analyze the video and audio to learn more about the meteorite's speed and physical properties. It's the first time a meteorite fall has been so comprehensively documented.
That's a huge step forward in our understanding of these events. It's amazing how something so seemingly random can contribute so much to scientific knowledge.
Absolutely. And it highlights the importance of citizen science, too. Valaydham initially thought it was something mundane, but his curiosity and his partner's father's suggestion led to this incredible discovery.
It's a reminder that even the most ordinary events can hold extraordinary significance. And that sometimes, a little bit of luck can lead to major breakthroughs.
Precisely. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening. And don't forget to subscribe for more fascinating stories from the world of science and technology. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of TinyZero, a project hosted on GitHub. It's a really cool reproduction of a larger model, focusing on countdown and multiplication tasks. Intriguing, right?
Absolutely. So what's the core idea behind TinyZero? Is it just a smaller version of something else?
Precisely. It's a reproduction of DeepSeek R10, but significantly smaller. They've built it using VRL, a framework that allows for efficient training. The goal? To see if they can replicate the reasoning abilities of a much larger language model, but with significantly reduced computational resources. Think of it as a proof of concept.
I see. So it's about resource efficiency. How do they achieve that?
That's where it gets really interesting. They leverage reinforcement learning, RL, to train a smaller base language model. They're using the QN 2.5 series to develop self-verification and search capabilities. It's all about teaching the model to reason, essentially. Amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But how does the training actually work? The GitHub page mentions different setups for different model sizes. I'm a bit lost in the technical details.
Right, so they have different training scripts depending on the size of the base model. For smaller models, like those under 1.5B parameters, they can use a single GPU. But for larger models, like the 3B plus parameter versions, they need multiple GPUs for training. The scripts handle the distribution of the workload across the GPUs. They also use different data preparation steps depending on whether they're using an instruct-tuned model or not. It's quite involved.
So essentially, they're showing that you don't always need a massive model to achieve complex reasoning. It's more about the training methodology, right?
Exactly. It's a testament to the power of clever training techniques. And the best part? They've made the entire process reproducible and open source, allowing others to experiment and build upon their work. That's what makes this so exciting.
That's fantastic. It really highlights the importance of efficient training methods in the field of large language models. I'm curious, though, what are the limitations? Are there any drawbacks to this approach?
Well, while it's impressive, it's still a smaller model. It might not scale as well to extremely complex tasks as a much larger model. Also, the training process itself can be resource-intensive, even if it's less so than training a full-sized model. But the trade-off between resource usage and performance is a significant contribution. It opens up possibilities for researchers with limited resources.
That's a great point. It's a balance, a trade-off. So overall, TinyZero is a significant contribution to the field. It demonstrates that sophisticated reasoning isn't solely dependent on model size.
Absolutely. It's a fantastic example of how clever engineering and innovative training techniques can push the boundaries of what's possible, even with limited resources. And that's what makes this project so compelling. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into TinyZero. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating GitHub pull request, adding a file explorer to the Helix editor. It's a significant enhancement, and the discussion surrounding it is really illuminating.
Right, I've been following this one. The initial proposal was pretty straightforward, right? A minimal implementation drawing inspiration from Telescope's file browser for NeoVim.
Exactly. The author, Drybalka, cleverly leveraged existing Helix components, minimizing the code changes and keeping the maintenance burden low. They even acknowledged the code wasn't perfect, calling it a proof of concept, which I appreciated. That honesty is refreshing.
I see. But there was some pushback, wasn't there? Some folks argued that a file browser should be a plugin, not a core feature.
Absolutely. The argument was that a full-fledged file browser is complex and might bloat the core editor. But Drybalka's response was compelling. Their changes were minimal and integrated naturally.
And the discussion evolved from there, right? Suggestions for alternative implementations, like using oil.nvim's buffer-based approach?
Yes, Dydroza suggested oil NVIM, which uses buffers for file navigation. Drybalka countered that this would be harder to implement and maintain, and that buffers are primarily for text editing, not file management. A valid point, I think.
Interesting. So the PR progressed, with requests for screenshots, code improvements from the Mike Davis, and suggestions for additional features like support for the current buffer directory.
Precisely. The Mike Davis's review was particularly insightful, pointing out efficiency improvements and error handling. And Zegervv's suggestion to add a function for browsing the current buffers directory was a great addition, making it much more user-friendly.
And then there were some issues reported, right? Problems with the command palette, binary file previews, and even the initial inability to open the file browser on macOS.
Yes, a lot of debugging and troubleshooting happened. It highlighted the complexities of integrating such a feature, even with a minimal implementation. The command palette issue, in particular, turned out to be a separate, larger bug in Helix itself.
But it all worked out in the end, right? The PR was merged, and the File Explorer is now part of Helix.
Yes. After several iterations, refinements, and a name change from File Browser to File Explorer, the PR was merged. The community collaboration was truly impressive. The final version included improvements suggested throughout the discussion, like adding trailing slashes to directory names for better visual distinction.
It's a great example of how a seemingly small feature can spark a rich and productive discussion, leading to a much better final product. And the enthusiasm from the community, especially after the merge, was palpable.
Absolutely. It showcases the power of open source collaboration and the value of iterative development. And it's a fantastic addition to Helix. Thanks. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We'll catch you next time.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into LightPanda, a headless browser designed for AI and automation. It's a game changer, folks.
A headless browser? Intriguing. What makes LightPanda stand out from the crowd, especially considering we already have heavyweights like Chrome and others?
Exactly. The key is its incredibly low memory footprint and blazing fast speed. They claim it uses 9 times less memory and is 11 times faster than Chrome. That's a massive performance boost, especially when dealing with large-scale AI or web scraping projects. Imagine the cost savings.
11 times faster? That's a bold claim. What's the secret sauce? Is it some kind of magical algorithm?
Haha, not quite magic. It's built from the ground up using Zig, a low-level systems programming language. This allows for fine-grained control and optimization, unlike existing browsers based on Chromium or WebKit. Plus, it's designed specifically for headless operation, eliminating the overhead of a graphical interface.
So, no GUI at all? How does one even interact with it then?
Great question. It primarily uses the Chrome DevTools protocol, CDP. This means you can control it using tools like Puppeteer or Playwright, which are already familiar to many developers. They provide a convenient API for automations. It's also got a command line interface for simple tasks like dumping a web page's HTML.
That's clever. But, it's still in beta, right? What's the current state of its functionality?
Yes, it's beta, so expect some bumps in the road, but it already supports JavaScript execution via V8, basic DOM APIs, AJAX, XHR, and Fetch APIs, and even has a basic CDP server. They're actively working on expanding web API support. It's a huge undertaking, you know.
I see. And the build process? I'm guessing it's not exactly a simple npm install?
Oh no, not at all. It requires Zig 0.1 3.0, and you'll need to build several dependencies from source, including V8 itself. They provide instructions for a streamlined, all-in-one build, but it's a resource-intensive process. A step-by-step approach is also available for those who prefer more control.
Sounds intense, but the potential payoff is huge, especially for tasks like large-scale web scraping or training LLMs. The performance gains could be transformative.
Absolutely. The low resource consumption is a major selling point. Running hundreds or thousands of browser instances is a significant cost factor for many applications. LightPanda aims to drastically reduce that cost. It's a very exciting project, pushing the boundaries of what's possible with headless browsers.
It certainly sounds promising. I'm curious to see how it evolves. Thanks for the overview.
My pleasure. And to our listeners, thanks for tuning in to Tech Bytes and News. We'll be back tomorrow with more exciting tech updates. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating project. Wild, a new linker aiming for blazing fast build times, especially during iterative development. It's written in Rust, which is, pretty cool.
Yeah, I've been hearing whispers about this. So what's the big deal? Why another linker when we already have established players like GNU LD, Gold LLD, and even Mold?
Exactly. The key here is speed, especially for iterative development. Existing linkers are great for production, but Wild aims to significantly reduce build times during development. Think faster feedback loops, more efficient coding. It's not yet incremental, but that's the ultimate goal.
Interesting. So it's currently faster even without incremental linking? What kind of performance gains are we talking about?
Oh yeah, the benchmarks are impressive. For example, linking RustDeck driver without debug info, Wild is significantly faster than all the others. Around 486 milliseconds compared to Mold's 946 milliseconds and GNU Weld's whopping 20,774 milliseconds. That's a huge difference.
Wow, that's a substantial improvement. But what about with debug info? That's usually where things get slower, right?
You're right. With debug info, the performance advantage shrinks. It's still faster than GNU LD and Gold, but Mold and LLD pull ahead. The author acknowledges this as an area for improvement. But even then, it's still a considerable improvement over the traditional linkers.
So it's currently only supporting x86-64 Linux? Any plans for broader support?
That's correct. Right now it's focused on x86-64 Linux, but the project roadmap includes support for other architectures and operating systems like macOS and Windows, along with incremental linking, which is a huge undertaking. They're also working on broader linker flag support and handling linker scripts. It's a very active project.
I see. And how easy is it to actually use Wild? Is it a drop-in replacement for existing linkers?
It's pretty straightforward for Rust projects. You can install it via cargo, and then configure your ~.cargo/config.tomhill file to use it as the default linker. For other languages, it might require more manual configuration. The documentation provides clear instructions on how to do this.
That sounds manageable. One last question. What's the story behind the name Wild? It's not exactly the most conventional name for a linker.
Haha, good question. It's a bit of a playful take on the naming conventions of other linkers. It's a recursive acronym. And the I in Wild represents the incremental linking goal. It's a fun, memorable name. And it's certainly more catchy than GNULD. Wouldn't you say?
Definitely. Thanks for the insightful overview. It sounds like Wild is a promising project with the potential to revolutionize the development workflow for many developers. I'm excited to see its progress.
You're welcome. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into a truly epic FizzBuzz tale, a coding challenge that went spectacularly and, unexpectedly, wrong. Prepare yourselves.
A FizzBuzz that didn't get the job? That's unusual. I'm intrigued. What makes this story so compelling?
It's not just any FizzBuzz. This candidate, let's call him Alex, faced a seemingly simple challenge that spiraled into a complex, multifaceted beast. The initial request was standard. Write a FizzBuzz function. But then, the rules started pouring in, one after another.
Oh, I see. So it wasn't just about the basic algorithm, it was about code style, maintainability, and handling edge cases, right?
Exactly. First, there were limits on line count and character width. Then came restrictions on variable names, demanding readability and avoiding mutation. Alex initially used a clever TypeScript one-liner, but the rules kept escalating. It was a roller coaster.
And what was the turning point? What made it so difficult?
Rule 7. Numeric types, number literals, and their associated methods were forbidden. The input array had to contain string representations of numbers, with strict limitations on character sets and length. Suddenly, it wasn't a simple coding problem anymore. It was a puzzle.
So how did Alex approach this seemingly impossible task? Did he give up?
No way. Alex's brilliance shone through. He realized he didn't need to reinvent math with strings. He leveraged TypeScript's type system. Ingenious! He used types to define valid number representations, to calculate digit sums, and to categorize numbers as multiples of 3 and 5. It was a beautiful display of functional programming.
That's amazing! So he essentially used the type system to enforce the rules and perform the FizzBuzz logic? That's incredibly clever.
Precisely. His solution was elegant, concise, and met all the initial requirements. But the interviewer wasn't done yet. More rules emerged, pushing Alex's solution to its limits. The pressure must have been immense.
What kind of rules? Did they involve more constraints on the code? Or were they about handling different input types?
Both. They added rules about handling zero, empty arrays, invalid inputs, negative numbers, and even decimal numbers. Each rule seemed designed to break conventional FizzBuzz solutions. It was relentless.
And Alex kept adapting? That's impressive resilience.
Absolutely. His type-based approach proved incredibly robust. He handled all the new rules with minimal code changes. But then came the final, unexpected twist. The interviewer's partner declared that hard-coding the digit sum table was cheating. Unbelievable.
Wait, what? That seems arbitrary. Many algorithms use pre-computed tables. That's a standard optimization technique.
Exactly. It was a completely unfair rule, but Alex, under immense pressure, found a way. He switched to base 15 representation, allowing him to apply simpler divisibility checks. He was unstoppable.
Base 15? That's a creative solution. So he essentially remapped the problem to make it easier to solve within the constraints?
Yes, his final solution was incredibly compact, elegant, and robust. It met all the rules, even the absurd ones. Yet despite his amazing performance, he didn't get the job.
That's disheartening. What happened?
The article suggests he was underqualified for the senior position, lacking a university degree and specific experience. But the whole experience highlights the absurdity of some technical interviews and the disconnect between impressive technical skills and the realities of the hiring process. It's a cautionary tale.
It certainly is. It shows that technical skill isn't everything. The interview process itself needs improvement. Thanks for sharing this fascinating story. It's a reminder that sometimes the best code doesn't guarantee the best outcome.
You're welcome. And that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for tuning in to Tech Bytes and News. Join us again tomorrow for more insightful discussions. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into a truly chilling phishing attempt, one that almost succeeded against a seasoned tech expert. It's a wild ride, so buckle up.
Whoa, sounds intense. What makes this phishing attempt so unique? I've heard of many, but what sets this one apart?
Right, so the victim, let's call him Zach, received a call seemingly from Google, complete with a perfect caller ID spoof and a convincing American accent. The caller, Chloe, claimed his account was compromised and accessed from Frankfurt. Pretty standard stuff, right? Wrong!
Oh, I see. So what was the twist?
The twist is that Chloe directed Zach to an email supposedly sent from Google, using the official G.co shortener. Now you'd think that would be a red flag, but the email was legit. It wasn't spoofed. It actually came from a Google Workspace account. That's the shocking part.
That's insane. How is that even possible? I mean, G.co is a Google domain, right? Surely there are security measures in place?
Exactly. That's what makes this so alarming. It turns out there's a potential bug in Google Workspace. Apparently, you can create a workspace with any G.co subdomain and send emails without domain verification. Hack clubbers discovered this, and it's a huge vulnerability.
A massive vulnerability? So the attackers essentially exploited a loophole in Google's own system?
Precisely. They cleverly used this bug to create a seemingly legitimate email address, making their phishing attempt incredibly convincing. The caller even provided a legitimate Google support number, further reinforcing the deception. It's a masterclass in social engineering, exploiting both technical and human vulnerabilities.
So Zach almost fell for it? How close was he? I'm on the edge of my seat here.
Oh, he was incredibly close. The attacker, after gaining his trust, guided him through a process that would have allowed them to reset his account. They even knew the two-factor authentication code before he did. One button press away from complete account takeover.
Unbelievable. So what saved him? Was it just luck?
No, it wasn't just luck. Zach's technical expertise and his suspicion, which kicked in at the right moment, saved him. He started recording the call, which provided crucial evidence. It's a testament to the importance of staying vigilant, even for experienced users.
This is a terrifying example of how sophisticated phishing attacks have become. It highlights the need for constant vigilance and awareness of potential vulnerabilities, even within seemingly secure systems. It's not just about technical expertise. It's about critical thinking and questioning everything.
Absolutely. This case underscores the need for Google to address this vulnerability immediately. It's a wake-up call for everyone, users and developers alike. We need to be more aware of these sophisticated attacks and the potential for exploitation of even the most trusted systems. Stay safe out there, everyone.
Indeed. Thanks for sharing this alarming yet insightful story. It's a crucial reminder to always be cautious and verify everything. This is a must-listen for anyone with a Google account.
You're welcome. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for tuning in, and remember to stay informed and stay safe. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into a truly impressive project, Snowdrop OS, a homebrew 16-bit real-mode operating system built entirely in x86 assembly language. It's amazing.
Wow, assembly language? That's hardcore. I'm curious, What sparked the creation of Snowdrop OS? Was it just a personal challenge, or was there a specific goal in mind?
It started with a childhood fascination, that classic curiosity about what happens when you power on a PC. The developer, Sebastian Mihai, wanted to unravel the mysteries of bootable disks and the inner workings of operating systems. He built it from scratch, which is incredibly impressive.
Incredible indeed. So what kind of functionality does this OS actually offer? Is it just a basic kernel, or does it have any applications?
Oh, it's far from basic. It boasts a file manager, a text editor, graphical applications, even a basic interpreter, and an x86 assembler and debugger. And, of course, a Tetris clone. Because what's an OS without games, right? It's even got a multiplayer Snake game via serial port.
A multiplayer Snake game? That's unexpectedly advanced for a homebrew OS. How does the multitasking work? Is it preemptive or cooperative?
It's evolved over time. Early versions were single-tasking, but later versions introduced basic multitasking support and even virtual display support. The details of the scheduling algorithm aren't explicitly stated, but the evolution through the different versions suggests a gradual improvement in its capabilities.
Fascinating. The project's been iterated upon extensively, going through 31 versions. That's a testament to the developer's dedication. What are some of the key milestones in its development?
Absolutely. Key milestones include the addition of a FAT12 driver, allowing file system interaction, the development of a GUI framework, and the inclusion of a basic interpreter and an x86 assembler and debugger, making it a fully functional development environment. The addition of a hard disk installer in version 19 is also a significant achievement.
It's remarkable how much functionality he packed into it. The fact that the source code is freely available is also a huge plus. This is a fantastic resource for anyone wanting to learn about OS development. I wonder if the bootloader is particularly optimized for size.
You're right, the open source aspect is a huge benefit. And yes, the bootloader is incredibly compact. Crammed into just 512 bytes, that's a testament to the developer's skill in assembly language optimization. It's a great example of efficient code writing.
Amazing! This whole project is a masterclass in low-level programming. It's inspiring to see what can be accomplished with dedication and a deep understanding of computer architecture. The inclusion of dynamic data structures is also a nice touch, showing a focus on efficient memory management.
Precisely. The inclusion of those libraries shows a level of sophistication beyond a simple OS. It's not just about getting something to work, but doing it efficiently and elegantly. The project is a fantastic example of what's possible, with a deep understanding of low-level programming and a lot of perseverance.
I completely agree. This is a truly inspiring project, a testament to the power of low-level programming and open-source collaboration. Thanks for highlighting this. It's been a fascinating discussion.
My pleasure. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of Snowdrop OS. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into the surprisingly complex world of scaling WebSockets. It's not as simple as it seems.
Absolutely. I've always wondered about the behind-the-scenes magic of real-time applications. So what are some of the biggest challenges in scaling WebSockets?
Well, one major hurdle is handling deployments gracefully. You can't have users noticing your deployments, right? The article highlights a clever approach using a phased rollout with 503 responses and a custom WebSocket close message to manage reconnections smoothly. It avoids a thundering herd effect by introducing random delays.
That's fascinating. A 25-second window for server replacement, plus a random delay for reconnections. That's smart engineering to minimize disruption. But what about the managed services? Don't they handle this automatically?
Not always. The article points out that some managed services wait for all requests to finish before shutting down servers. With persistent WebSocket connections, this can lead to significantly longer downtime than expected. A real gotcha.
I see. So it's not just about the deployment process itself, but also about how the managed service interacts with long-lived connections. What other key aspects did the article cover?
Another crucial point is establishing a consistent message schema. They use a 2-byte type prefix for message categorization, super efficient and scalable, allowing for 65,536 different message types. They also use delimiters instead of JSON for faster encoding and decoding.
That's a clever optimization. Using delimiters instead of JSON is a nice touch for performance. It's all about those small efficiencies that add up at scale, right? What about connection reliability?
Exactly. The article emphasizes the importance of detecting silent disconnects using heartbeats. They send ping-pong messages every 30 seconds, and if a response isn't received within 45 seconds, they assume a disconnect and reconnect. It's a simple but effective mechanism.
Smart. A simple ping-pong system is often overlooked, but it's essential for maintaining reliable connections. What about network restrictions? How do they handle those?
They use server-sent events, SSE, as a fallback mechanism. Since SSE is HTTP-based, it's less likely to be blocked by restrictive networks. It's not as performant as WebSockets, but it provides a decent alternative. It's a good backup plan.
That's a practical solution. Having a fallback mechanism is crucial for robustness. The article also mentioned some other challenges, didn't it? Things they didn't fully address?
Yes. They mentioned the lack of standard tooling for WebSockets compared to HTTP. Things like rate limiting, data validation, and error handling often require custom implementations. Caching responses is another challenge. There's no standard way to cache WebSocket responses like you can with HTTP. And finally, per-message authentication is crucial for security.
So while WebSockets offer incredible benefits for real-time applications, scaling them effectively requires careful planning and a robust architecture. It's not just about the technology itself, but also about handling deployments, managing connections, and addressing potential network issues.
Precisely. It's a complex beast, but the rewards of building fast, real-time applications are well worth the effort. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the hidden complexities of scaling WebSockets. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today we're diving deep into Loops, a new short-form video platform aiming to bring the best of TikTok to the Fediverse. It's still in beta, but already generating buzz. Exciting, right?
Absolutely. I'm particularly interested in how it's tackling the challenge of building a Fediverse-first video platform. The article highlights some key hurdles, doesn't it? Like the slow onboarding process, for example. 1 invite per second? That's, a bit of a bottleneck, to say the least.
Yeah, the onboarding is definitely a sticking point. They're rate limited to 1 invite per second, which is understandable given it's a beta, but it does create a significant hurdle for growth. But hey, they're transparent about it. They're also working on it. The article mentions that many promised features are still under development, including federation, which is crucial for a truly decentralized platform.
Right, federation is key. Without it, it's just another siloed platform. The article mentions the project lead, Dan Supernault, is committed to releasing the source code and enabling federation soon. That's reassuring, but we'll have to wait and see.
Totally. And it's not just federation. The lack of a built-in camera and editor is a significant limitation. Users have to rely on third-party apps like CapCut, Picamov, or even KDNLive for video creation and editing. That's a pretty big ask for casual users. It's a bit of a friction point, you know?
I see. That's a fair point. It definitely adds extra steps to the content creation process. But the article also points out that a third-party web client already exists, which is pretty impressive given how early in development it is. That shows some community engagement already.
That's true. The community is already stepping up. Someone even reverse-engineered the API and published a spec on GitHub. That's amazing. It speaks volumes about the potential of the platform and the enthusiasm surrounding it. But, the article also mentions a concerning trend. A lot of users are just re-uploading TikTok videos. That's not exactly fostering unique content, is it?
No, not at all. That's a real problem. It highlights the need for a strong community and incentives for original content creation. The article suggests that improving discovery and search is crucial to address this. Right now, it seems pretty limited.
Exactly. They need to improve discovery and search, and also make the video creation process much smoother. The article also notes that the comment section is quite basic, lacking features like comment controls, which are common on other platforms, and push notifications are still under development. It's a work in progress, for sure.
It's a young project, so it's understandable that it's not fully featured yet. But the potential is there. The article highlights the polished user interface and the fact that it's already attracting users. If they can address the issues mentioned, federation, content creation, discovery, and search, Loops could become a significant player in the Fediverse. I'm cautiously optimistic.
Me too. It's definitely a project to keep an eye on. The article concludes by emphasizing the need for a dedicated community of content creators. That's going to be key to its long-term success. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into Loops. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a heartwarming and deeply personal story from the Washington Post about Jula, a young woman who's using her late father's extensive vinyl collection to cope with grief and connect with a massive online community. It's a fascinating blend of personal loss, social media virality, and the enduring power of music. Let's get started.
I'm already captivated. The scale of this, 10,000 records, is incredible. How does she manage to make it engaging for such a large audience?
That's the amazing part. Jula doesn't just play the records. She creates these short, vibrant videos on Instagram and TikTok. Think quirky visuals. Her cat makes appearances. She wears fun outfits, sometimes even backwards. Paired with insightful, enthusiastic commentary, she's got this effortlessly cool vibe. A bit like an 80s MTV VJ, but with a Gen Z twist. It's incredibly relatable.
So it's not just about the music itself, but the whole presentation? The article mentions she even upgraded her turntable after feedback from her followers. That's impressive community engagement.
Exactly. The community aspect is huge. People share their own memories connected to music. Musicians thank her for highlighting their work. Audiophiles chime in with technical details. It's a beautiful blend of personal connection and shared passion. It's a testament to the power of music in processing grief, you know? It's really quite moving.
It's interesting how she uses the physicality of vinyl, the scratches, the album art, to connect with her father's memory. It's a tangible link to the past in a very digital world. I wonder, does the article explore the broader implications of this kind of online grief support?
It touches on that, yes. The article highlights how Jula's project offers a welcome alternative to the often negative aspects of social media. It's a space for genuine connection and shared experience, focusing on positive memories and emotional healing through music. It's a really powerful counterpoint to the doom scrolling we often see online. It's a breath of fresh air.
Absolutely. And the fact that vinyl is experiencing a resurgence makes it even more relevant. It's not just nostalgia, it's a deliberate choice to engage with music in a more mindful, tactile way. It's a fascinating intersection of technology, culture, and personal experience.
Precisely. The article points out that vinyl now outsells CDs, highlighting a shift towards a more deliberate and appreciative approach to music consumption. Jula's project perfectly embodies this trend, transforming a personal journey of grief into a shared experience that resonates with hundreds of thousands of people. It's truly remarkable.
It's a beautiful story, a testament to the power of music, community, and the enduring strength of the human spirit in the face of loss. It's a story that deserves to be shared. I'm so glad we covered this today.
Me too. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time with more fascinating stories from the digital world. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating breakthrough in algorithm design. A new book sorting algorithm that's practically perfect. It tackles the library sorting problem, or list labeling, a challenge relevant to anyone who's ever wrestled with a crowded bookshelf, or, massive databases.
Right. I've always wondered about the optimal way to organize things, especially when dealing with frequent additions. So what's the big deal about this new algorithm?
The big deal is efficiency. Imagine adding a book to a completely full shelf. You'd have to shift everything, right? That's O, N, time complexity, proportional to the number of books. This new algorithm gets incredibly close to O, log N, meaning the time to insert a book increases logarithmically with the number of books. It's a huge leap.
Whoa, logarithmic time. That's a massive improvement. But how did they achieve this? Magic?
Not magic, but a clever combination of randomness and a limited look at the past. Earlier algorithms were either deterministic, no randomness, or smooth, evenly spaced items. This one breaks those constraints. It's randomized and non-smooth, which initially seems counterintuitive, but it works.
Counterintuitive, you say? I'm intrigued. Doesn't a non-smooth approach risk creating those huge gaps we were talking about?
Exactly. That's the genius. They strategically use randomness to manage the non-smoothness. They don't completely ignore history. They look at recent trends to predict future editions, but only to a limited extent. It's a delicate balance.
So it's like, predictive maintenance for your bookshelf? A bit of educated guesswork mixed with a dash of chaos?
Precisely. And the results are stunning. They've brought the upper bound down to log n, log n, cubed, incredibly close to the theoretical lower bound of log n. It's almost perfect.
Almost perfect. Is there still room for improvement then?
There's a tiny gap, that log n cubed term. The researchers aren't sure if they should focus on lowering the upper bound further or raising the lower bound, but many experts believe the lower bound is already optimal.
Fascinating. So this isn't just about bookshelves, it has implications for much larger scale data management, right?
Absolutely. Think databases, file systems, anywhere you need efficient insertion and retrieval of massive amounts of data. This algorithm has the potential to significantly speed up those operations.
This is truly remarkable. It's amazing how a problem seemingly so simple, organizing books, can lead to such profound advancements in computer science.
It highlights the power of seemingly simple problems to drive innovation. And the elegance of this solution, combining randomness and limited history dependence, is just beautiful. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of almost perfect book sorting algorithms. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into a fascinating paper. You could have invented Fenwick trees. It's all about efficient data structures, specifically comparing segment trees and Fenwick trees. Get ready for some serious algorithm appreciation.
Ooh, I love a good data structures deep dive. So, what's the core problem these trees solve? I'm guessing something involving fast updates and queries?
Exactly. We've got a sequence of integers, and we need to efficiently perform two operations: updating a single element's value and querying the sum of a range of elements. A simple array gives O1 updates, but ON range queries. The challenge is achieving sublinear time for both.
Right, the classic trade-off. So, segment trees are the first solution presented. How do they work at a high level?
Yes, segment trees are a classic approach. They use a binary tree structure. Each leaf node holds a single element from the sequence, and each internal node caches the sum of its children. This allows for O log n time for both updates and range queries. It's elegant, but it uses more space than necessary.
I see. So, more memory overhead. That's where Fenwick trees come in, right? They're more space efficient?
Precisely. Fenwick trees, also known as binary index trees, are a clever optimization. They achieve the same logarithmic time complexity for updates and queries, but with a much smaller memory footprint. They essentially thin the segment tree, discarding data from right children, yet retaining enough information to perform the necessary operations.
That's surprisingly efficient. But how do they manage to do that? The paper mentions bit tricks, which sounds a bit cryptic.
That's the magic. The paper uses a functional approach with a domain-specific language for bit strings to explain the seemingly opaque imperative code of Fenwick trees. It's all about cleverly manipulating bits to represent the tree structure and perform the operations. It's quite ingenious, actually.
So it's not just about clever data structure design, but also about the elegance of the functional approach used to explain it? That's a really interesting point.
Absolutely. The paper uses equational reasoning to derive the Fenwick tree operations from the segment tree operations. It shows how the seemingly magical bit manipulations are a direct consequence of the underlying tree structure and the desired operations. It's a beautiful example of how functional programming can illuminate even imperative code.
I'm intrigued by this functional derivation. Does the paper go into detail about the specific bit manipulations and how they relate to the tree traversal? The paper does go into detail, right?
Oh yes, the paper meticulously walks through the derivation, introducing a DSL for 2's complement binary numbers. It defines functions for incrementing, decrementing, finding the least significant bit, LSB, and other bitwise operations. It then uses these functions to derive the update and query operations for Fenwick trees, showing how they correspond to traversing the thin segment tree.
That sounds incredibly detailed. And the result is a much more space-efficient data structure with the same performance characteristics as a segment tree? That's amazing!
Exactly. It's a testament to the power of both clever data structure design and elegant mathematical reasoning. The paper really highlights the beauty and power of functional programming in understanding and deriving efficient algorithms. It's a must-read for anyone interested in data structures and algorithms.
I definitely need to check this out. Thanks for the summary. It sounds like a great way to improve my understanding of both data structures and functional programming.
You're very welcome. And that's a wrap for today's Tech Bytes and News. Join us tomorrow for another exciting deep dive into the world of technology. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into some exciting news from Caltrain. Their electric fleet is exceeding expectations. Amazing!
Yeah, I saw that. It's a huge win for sustainability, right? 23% energy regeneration is pretty impressive.
Absolutely. They're sending almost a quarter of the energy consumed back to the grid. That's far beyond their initial projections. They initially estimated annual electricity costs at $19.5 million, but now it's down to $16.5 million. That's a significant saving.
Wow, a $3 million saving. That's huge. And it's not just the savings, it's the environmental impact. This is a massive step towards cleaner transportation.
Precisely. And get this, they're also expecting around $6 million annually in energy credits from the California Air Resources Board. So, their first year of electric service will actually be cheaper than their previous diesel operation.
That's incredible. It really highlights the financial viability of this transition, beyond just the environmental benefits. I'm curious though, are they getting paid for that energy they're feeding back into the grid?
That's a great question. Currently, no. There's no legal requirement for them to be reimbursed. They're essentially giving it away for free right now. But, that could change in the future.
I see. That seems like a missed opportunity, doesn't it? Perhaps there's room for policy changes to incentivize this kind of energy regeneration even further. It's a win-win situation.
Definitely. It's a testament to the technology though, right? Regenerative braking, a technology dating back to 1886. They're using electric motors in reverse to recapture energy during braking instead of losing it as heat. It's pretty ingenious.
It is. And the energy goes back to the overhead contact system, then to the nearest traction power facility. It's a closed-loop system essentially. Efficient and sustainable.
Exactly. Michel Bouchard, Caltrain's executive director, put it perfectly. Caltrain is running its service on 100% renewable energy and is returning nearly a quarter of that energy to the grid. It's a huge success story.
It really is. This is a great example of how investing in sustainable infrastructure can not only benefit the environment, but also lead to significant cost savings in the long run. It's inspiring.
Absolutely. And it's a great example for other transit agencies to follow. Caltrain, the oldest continually operating rail system west of the Mississippi, is leading the way in this transition to electric power. This is a big deal.
Definitely a success story worth celebrating. Thanks for sharing this exciting news.
My pleasure. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving deep into a chilling report from Public Citizen. Deadly and imminent. The Pentagon's mad dash for Silicon Valley's AI weapons. It's a really concerning look at the replicator program.
Right, and the urgency is palpable. The report highlights the Pentagon's lack of transparency, doesn't it? They're being incredibly vague about whether Replicator is developing killer robots, even though all signs point to that being the case.
Exactly. It's all very strategic ambiguity. They're emphasizing speed and innovation, bypassing usual administrative hurdles and public scrutiny. They claim it's about countering China, but the ethical implications are massive.
Yeah, the report mentions a $1 billion budget for Replicator. That's a lot of money for a program shrouded in secrecy, and the fact that they're already buying things like Switchblade 600 drones. Those are lethal weapons, even if they're attritable.
Precisely. And the involvement of companies like Anduril, with its CEO Palmer Luckey, openly celebrating violence, that's extremely worrying. It speaks volumes about the potential for dehumanization in warfare.
I see. The report also talks about the man-in-the-loop concept, but it argues that's a misleading term. It's not necessarily about direct human control of each lethal action, but more about some level of oversight after the fact.
You're right. It's a dangerous loophole. The directive sounds reassuring, but the lack of definition allows for a lot of leeway in deploying autonomous weapons. The potential for civilian casualties and unintended consequences is enormous.
And the global implications are huge. The U.S.'s lack of support for the Stop Killer Robots campaign is a major concern. If the world's biggest military isn't committed to responsible AI in warfare, who will be?
Exactly. It sets a terrible precedent. The report also points out the intense lobbying from both established defense contractors and these new Silicon Valley players. Everyone wants a piece of that massive Pentagon budget, fueling this reckless rush towards AI weapons.
It's a perfect storm of factors, isn't it? The drive for technological advantage, the lack of regulation, the profit motive. It's all leading to a potentially catastrophic situation. The report's recommendations are pretty clear. Clarity from the Pentagon, stronger safeguards, and a serious rethink of the ever-increasing military spending.
Absolutely. The report makes a strong case for pausing and carefully considering the long-term strategic and ethical consequences. We need a serious public debate about this before it's too late. This isn't just about technology. It's about the future of warfare and the very nature of humanity. Thanks for joining us on Tech Bytes and News. We hope you'll join us again tomorrow for more insightful discussions. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a really cool open source project. Chatbox, a desktop client for various AI models. It's got a massive 25.3K stars on GitHub, which speaks volumes.
Wow, 25.3K stars. That's impressive. So what exactly is Chatbox? Is it just another Chat GPT wrapper?
It's more than that. It's a really versatile desktop application. Think of it as a unified interface for multiple LLMs. It supports ChatGPT, of course, but also Claude, Gemini, or Llama, even allowing access to locally hosted models like Llama 2.
Locally hosted models? That's a big deal for privacy, right? No more sending your data to the cloud for every query?
Exactly. One of its key features is local data storage. Your interactions stay on your device, enhancing privacy. Plus, it offers no deployment installation packages. Super easy to get started. No complex setup needed.
I see. So it's not just about convenience, it's about control and security. What other features caught your eye?
Oh, tons. It's got image generation with DALL-E 3, enhanced prompting features, keyboard shortcuts, even Markdown, LaTeX, and code highlighting for better readability. Plus, a prompt library, message quoting, streaming replies, the works.
Streaming replies? That sounds slick. Faster feedback loops, I presume?
Precisely. And it boasts a really nice, ergonomic UI with a dark theme. It's cross-platform too. Windows, Mac, Linux, and there's even a web version and mobile apps in the works. It's multilingual as well, supporting English, simplified and traditional Chinese, Japanese, Korean, French, German, and Russian, among others.
That's quite a feature list. But, the README mentions a community edition and an official edition. What's the difference?
Good question. The Community Edition is the open source version we're discussing under the GPL v3 license. The official edition is closed source but still free, and it might have some extra features and better support. The developer recommends the official edition for most users.
Makes sense. So if I'm a developer, the Community Edition is the way to go, right? To contribute, perhaps?
Absolutely. The README clearly outlines how to contribute, submitting issues, pull requests, feature requests, bug reports, documentation revisions, translations. They even welcome other forms of contributions. It's a very welcoming community.
It seems like a really well-maintained project. The commit history shows frequent updates and improvements. The fact that it's actively developed and has such a large community is a huge plus.
Indeed. And the developer story is also inspiring. He initially created it as a debugging tool, but it evolved into this amazing application due to community feedback. It's a testament to the power of open source collaboration.
Definitely. This chatbox project sounds like a fantastic resource for anyone working with LLMs. Thanks for highlighting it.
My pleasure. And that's all the time we have for today's Tech Bytes and News. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome to Tech Bytes and News, your daily roundup of articles featured in Hacker News. Today, we're diving into a fascinating blog post detailing one person's journey with Home Assistant, specifically their setup in 2025. It's a really interesting look at how a smart home system evolves over time.
I'm eager to hear this. 7 years with Home Assistant is quite a commitment. What were the initial hurdles, and how did they evolve?
Right. It started modestly, with an IKEA smart hub and a few lights in a small apartment. But as the system grew, more devices, more automations, the Raspberry Pi just couldn't handle it. The SQLite database became a bottleneck, a real showstopper.
Oh, I see. So the move to a VM on a home server was the solution? And MySQL for the main database?
Exactly. And for long-term data, InfluxDB, a proper scaling solution. Then, moving to a house massively increased the scale. Over 100 devices. Almost every bulb is now integrated.
Wow, that's a significant upgrade. The blog post mentions adaptive lighting. What's the story there?
Initially, Flux was used, but they've since moved to the adaptive lighting integration via HACS. It's much more sophisticated, offering better control over color, temperature, and brightness. But there are challenges. Neither Flux nor adaptive lighting can target light groups directly. You have to list each light individually. A real pain with dozens of lights.
That sounds incredibly tedious. And what about the different IKEA bulb types? Did that complicate things?
Absolutely. Each bulb type needs a separate configuration, but, the effort is worth it for that smooth color temperature shift throughout the day. It's all about those circadian rhythms.
I get that. The blog also discusses using Cursor, an AI coding assistant. How did that help?
Oh, it was a game changer. Cursor helped automate the tedious YAML configuration. They wrote a custom script to parse all the lights, determine their capabilities, and then generate the YAML configurations. It's a huge time saver.
That's impressive. So essentially, Cursor acts as a smart intermediary between the Home Assistant API and the YAML configuration files?
Precisely. It even helps with debugging. If something breaks, you feed the logs into Cursor, and it helps pinpoint the issue. It's surprisingly effective. The blog also provides example YAML configurations optimized for different IKEA bulb types.
Fascinating. What are the next steps in this smart home evolution?
Smart TRVs, thermostatic radiator valves. They're aiming for granular temperature control in each room, using data from a Nest thermostat. It's a common problem in older houses. Some rooms are too hot, others too cold. This should balance things out.
That makes perfect sense. It's all about creating a truly comfortable and efficient home environment. So from a simple IKEA smart hub to a fully automated system with AI assistance, quite a journey.
Absolutely. It's a testament to the power of Home Assistant and the possibilities of smart home technology. And remember to check out the author's podcast, Nerding Out with Victor, if you want to delve deeper into tech and smart home topics. Thanks for listening to Tech Bytes and News. Have a great day.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the daily roundup of Tech Bytes and News. See you again tomorrow. Goodbye.